Hey guys, welcome back. This is Mopar V-Code and I'm Levi. We're going to continue on with the 70 GTX. This episode is going to be special. We're going to be seeing if this old engine will fire up. If this is your first time here, I welcome you to check out some of my other videos and it'll kind of get you caught up to what we've done so far with this car. But back to the engine. This engine was known to be built around in the 90s. I know this engine to be a very mild engine build, very low compression, small cam, nothing fancy here. We're not winning any drag races, but it should certainly get us down the road, or maybe to a car show if we wanted to make it to one of those. But anyway, I'm gonna show you some of the stuff to get it running. We're gonna dial in the FiTech, get the initial setup going. We'll get the distributor set. I'm going to shoot for around maybe like 10 degrees base timing initial. And then once we get it up and running, if it'll run, I'm going to try to shoot for around 36, 37 degrees total, somewhere in that range. Once we get it up and running, I'd like to adjust our idle air control module. And you do that by putting the FiTech into a learning mode. And then we basically just set the idle screw on the center throttle body, bringing that number on the FiTech down to around a 5 to 10 range. Basically what it is a little motorized unit inside the throttle body that can actually control the throttle movement. And we want to make sure it's not clear on one end of the spectrum to allow full travel of that motorized unit. We'll lock that in, get that set, and then I would like to kind of see how equal they are between all three units. And we'll use this carburetor synchronizer. It should be a pretty basic process. I've never used one of these, so we'll see. Anyway guys, I hope you're as excited as I am. It's been killing me not to have tried this already, but here we go. Let's get to it. So it's time to go ahead and program up the FiTech. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the handheld here. Let it boot up for a second. You can see by the screen here the values are all blank. That's because the key is not in the run position. We'll need to change it to the run position to be able to program it. Alright, so you can see all the values popped up here. So let's go back to the menu here and go to EFI initial setup. We'll go to engine setup. And we'll just kind of go down through all these parameters. We have an 8-cylinder, so that's okay. Our cubes, though, however, are a little light. We'll need to bump that up a little bit. We got that big 440 in there, and to save that you need to push OK. And then we'll need to adjust for our cam. It's 1 through 4. I'm pretty certain this is a stock cam. I don't know much about it. It's just whatever was in it. So we'll start with 1. If we need to, we'll adjust it as we get it fired up. The rev limit, it's a little high. Let's go ahead and go down to like 5,500 or so. This is just an old tired 440, so I don't want to push it too hard. Or I'd like to have a little bit of a safety net there to catch it. Idle, RPM warm, we'll leave it at 800 now. We'll adjust that later. That'll get us going. And then down here at the bottom, TAC, or 2-wire plus coil. So we want to use a TAC input as we're coming right off the negative side of the coil. So we'll send that to the ECU. We'll skim through some of these other ones. I don't think there's much else to do here. Yeah. It looks fine. Ignition looks fine for now. Idle setup, yeah, 800. Fan setup, we don't have electric fans, so we're gonna disable this feature. If you leave it enabled, I think it'll work fine. It just will throw a code, I believe. Let's turn on some gauges, so you can kind of pick and choose. I believe you can only pick 3 or 4. So we'll do the RPM. I'll be curious to see how much vacuum we have, so I'll turn that on. Air fuel ratio maybe. And let's turn on our idle air control. All right, now that we got the handheld set up, let's set up our distributor. So I need to roll over the crank to line up about 10 degrees or so, which you can barely see. So there's a 5 and then a 10, maybe a 15, but the second one is 10. So it's right about there. So I'm going to use a screwdriver and just use on the starter relay, so we don't have anything else going on. But we'll try to roll it over, get it close, and then I got a ratchet. We'll bring it in or back it up just a hair to set that, and then we'll move on to the distributor and rotate it and line it up with the number 1 piston. So let's do that now and see how this goes. Getting closer. Oh, right there. Look at that. All right, so hopefully we have our distributor in correctly and we don't have it 180 degrees out. All right, so we're going to pop the cap off and we're just going to make sure that number 1, which is just right to the left of the first clip at the bottom. I want to make sure, yep, see, so we're 180 degrees out. The pointer is pointing the other direction. So let's roll it over till we get to the other mark, or the other side of it rather. All right, went just a little bit past. No big deal, we can just back it up a little bit. Looks like we're gonna go just a hair more. All right, I think that looks close enough. All right, so now we need to set our distributor now that we have our crank set. So let's pop the cap off and see. We should be pointing around this number 1 wire. So, and if not, yeah, we're in the general location. We may need to adjust it just a little bit. Let me get over here on this side of it. So what you want to do is just kind of line up where your tab would be, and then kind of eyeball down on where this plug is, and make sure that the rotor is pointing right in that direction, which it looks like it is. Kind of want to try to get it right on center the best you can. That way you're closer to your 10 degree mark, or your initial, whatever you're trying to set up. So I think it could turn just a little bit. Let me get the ratchet here. And we're just gonna give it a little nudge. Okay, let's check that again. All right, so we're using this plug. Yeah, I like that. So that should give us in the ballpark. Once we get it up and running, I'll put a timing light on it and dial it in to what we actually want. This thing, man, it's just really throwing a fit right now. Really thought it would pop off. Felt like I had the timing set pretty good, or close enough to where we'd get some kind of rough idle out of it. But kind of in between my cycles of starting, I was adjusting the distributor just a little bit, a couple degrees either way, see if it'd make a difference. It really seemed like it'd want to pop off and kind of go and then kind of fall on its face. I double checked to make sure we had good fuel pressure. I was kind of concerned about that. Maybe it was falling off. But you can see there I got a good solid 58 plus PSI feeding it. So I really feel like maybe it's a setting or something isn't quite right with the FiTech. I'm going to do some investigating here on the old interwebs, and hopefully I can come up with something, and we'll take it from there. After doing some research, looking up a few of the forums, I am not getting an RPM value here when I crank. So I'll show you here real quick. Alright, fuel pump's primed. So you can see it's 0 now, and when I crank it should roll over. See, it just dies. And then that value is not moving. So after doing a little bit of digging, I found another setting that I didn't really see that was talked about. Ignition setup. Number 4 right here. I didn't see it before, but it caught me off guard. RPM from TAC, and it's set to off. We want it to be on. I missed that from the beginning. So I bet it fires up now. Alright, so 440, 5500, 800 RPMs, tack, input. Should all be right. So let's give it another try here and see what it does. Hey, it's working! Woo! Alright, so you can see we've got good oil pressure now. Got about 55 or so. Temperature still cold. Fuel gauge not really accurate. You can see the coolant temperature on the FiTech here as well, so it shows 80. Let's go ahead and try to dial in some timing with the timing light now. Hey, we got that distributor set. We're up to temperature about 220 or so, 215. So I think we can go ahead and adjust the idle air control. You can see my gauge on my panel is a little lower for some reason. It says 170 and this is saying almost 219 or so, so not real sure. Maybe the gauge is off. I put a brand new sending unit in the blocks, so maybe it just is a little slower or lagging behind. Well, let's go ahead and set the idle air control. So we'll put it in that mode first. So we'll go back. We'll go down to, I think it's initial setup, idle setup, and right here where it says idle set screw TPS 0. You want to change it from normal to adjust. I also kind of want to bring down my idle just a little bit, so I'm going to do that now while I'm in here. Just going to bring it down to, like, say 700. Okay, so we're going to adjust, and it's in that. So let's go ahead and get our gauges so we can attune this guy. So I'll go to RPM. Let's get idle air control up. Sure. Okay. This is the one that we've got to adjust. We're like at 44, 45. We need to get that down a little bit lower to help out that idle control. So let's go out there and adjust that, and we'll try to get this in range. Like we got her. All right, let's see what this old girl can do. Woohoo! She still got it. All right, guys. Well, hey, it's alive and running. Look at that. Surprise, surprise. It still has some hiccups. I could tell that it was kind of misfiring here and there. But I could tell that FiTech was seemed to be kind of learning a little bit and adapting as I was kind of putting around a little bit. So I'm going to give it some time before I go adjusting it too much. One thing I did notice that my alternator wasn't kicking in until about 850 to 900 RPMs. So I did readjust my idle up a little bit. That way I'm getting some kind of charging output out of my alternator. Um, Being all electronic with EFI and the fuel pump running, I don't really want it taking a chance of zapping that battery if I'm putting around or whatever. So anyway, adjusted that up to about 850, 900, somewhere in that range. And then when I put it down in gear, it drops down to around 750 anyway. So, you know, I guess if I needed it to charge up, I noticed it was getting low, I could just put it in park and let it kind of idle for a little bit and charge itself back up. But anyway, it's running. I'm happy. We'll keep tuning it and keep adjusting it. But we got one thing left to do. We need to put these decals on this air cleaner so we can wrap up the engine bay. So let's do that now. There are a few different ones made out there. A lot of reproductions. One thing that I found out is on these, you want to look for one that starts with a white square, not a black square. If you want to be, correct, that's what you want. You want a white square, not a black square, because it works out all the way across. So you should start with a white, end with a black. Also, some of these, the R's are a little bit different. So keep an eye out for that when you're shopping around for your replacement decal. I got these from ECS. They make pretty good stuff. This do not wash decal impressed me quite a bit too. It actually has a texture on it. See, it's pretty high grade decal in my opinion. Some of the other ones I'm sure are just like printed to where they're just, like a smooth. This one is like that as well, but this is raised so you can almost feel it. But anyway, let's go ahead and put these on here. I've already gone ahead and used some Windex and kind of wiped off some of this, but we could probably hit it again here real quick. Just to kind of get any fingerprints or any kind of oils that are on there. And then I have just a little bit of warm water with a little bit of Dawn dish soap, just to kind of give us some lubricity and that allow us to kind of finesse the decal just a little bit. One mistake you'll make is if you try to peel this off and just slap it on there, you're for sure probably going to get a wrinkle or it'll be off just a little bit and you're going to hate it. So do yourself a favor, wet it down. This is the way to do it, in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and just wet this a little bit here. And then I'm going to go ahead and peel the back and then wet the decal as well. And one thing I should point out is I did do some referencing. I did some Googling. Also, I have a manual, a restoration manual, to look kind of at some of these decals and how they were positioned originally from the factory. From what I could tell, this decal rides up a little bit higher than you would think, because the tips actually have to go down the valley and up just a hair to be able to get it to fit and line up where it needs to be. It should be about a thumb, looks like to me, thumb width from the top of this decal to where the rim of this top recess starts here. So, all right, I'll stop talking here and just put some on the outside so don't scuff it. All right, there you have it, guys. It runs, it drives, it'll even do a donut if you want to. I'm just thankful that it actually ran and didn't have any catastrophic issues. I didn't notice any ticking or any knocking. It actually sounds pretty smooth. There was a little bit of fluttering happening when I got on the throttle, but I'm kind of chalking that up to the FiTech still learning the fuel mapping, because it does adapt and learn the curve. So we'll see. We'll give it a little bit of time. But I've got several things we need to do to this car yet before it's roadworthy. And I'll be sharing those with you guys as well as we continue on here. So just want to say thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, we'll see you.